We haven't talked in a while. I was thinking about you this week because the Cavs are good again. And that was where you made your bones originally, way back when in the early 21st century. It was a team that I really liked heading into the season as being like a fun league pass, frisky. Maybe they could be a 10th seed in the playing game type of thing. I love Mobley. Garland, I certainly didn't see this coming, but they are now a game and a half out of the 1 seed in the East. Just, I know you've been watching. I know you have a lot of connections with that team. Did anyone see this?
No, and they didn't see it either. And if they told you that, they would be lying. They didn't know Garland was going to play like this. They were excited about Mobley. You know, they had this plan in place to play Mobley, Lauri Markkanen, and Jared Allen together, but they didn't know it was going to work. And like, I've talked to JD Bickerstaff about this. Like, you know, they went off to a retreat at this resort in Pennsylvania and they hunkered down and they went over all their ways they could play big guys together. He talked about when his dad was running the Seattle Sonics and they had Sean Kemp and Detlef Schrempf and various centers who came through there and they played with 3 big guys. You know why they played 3 big guys, Bill? Because those were their 3 of their best players. They had no guards and they had bigs, so they played their best guys.
Yep.
And then Sexton blew out his knee. He didn't blow out his knee, but he hurt his meniscus and he's out. And it opened the door for Garland and everything fell into place. It turned out Allen and Mobley could play together. It turned out that Mobley would be a difference-making defensive player from day one, which is beyond rare in the NBA. I mean, you sometimes see guys be difference-making offensive players. You don't see difference-making defensive players who are 19. You know, this guy who the Pelicans drafted, Herbert Jones.
Oh, yeah. He's a stud.
He's like a difference-making defensive player. He's also 23. You know, he had 4 years of college. He's not 19 and slight. And so, like, there's no way they would believe they were in second place in the end of January or third place, whatever it is.
I loved Mobley. He was my favorite player in the draft. I still can't believe he fell to third. You need luck like this sometimes. And Cleveland's had the luck a few times. I mean, they've picked, you know, high up in the lottery probably more times this century than any other franchise. They got lucky that you think about that Memphis, if they had gotten the first pick, they wouldn't have had to give it to Detroit that whole draft. Instead, Cleveland gets LeBron. They get the Kyrie draft where it's like Kyrie or Derek Williams. I still don't understand what happened to Derek Williams, but you know, they've had even, I guess the Wiggins pick, that was the year they were able to flip it to Kevin Love. But you think if Embiid doesn't get hurt the week before, that might have been another lucky one. The Mobley thing to me is the luckiest out of all of them because to get that guy third, I do think we'll be looking back at that a couple decades from now and being like, wow, like the same way we look at the KG thing, you know, and some of these other ones are like, wow, how did they not see this? It was a lot more complicated in the moment, obviously, but.
Well, think of the layers of luck because they had to get lucky to jump up into the top 4. They got third, but they weren't guaranteed. I mean, they had decent odds. Like it was not out of the realm of possibility for the Oklahoma City Thunder to get picks 3 and 4. And I can't remember if the Houston pick was top 3 protected or top 4 protected. Maybe it wasn't possible for them to get 4 and 5. Like Oklahoma City could have gotten in there with 2 picks.
Yep.
And Cleveland not only gets lucky to get in there, but then, you know, Detroit locks on Cade Cunningham. And Houston, from what I understand, he didn't even seriously consider Evan Mobley. It was Jalen Green. The Cavs knew they were getting Mobley from like a week after the lottery on. They locked into him. And
you knew they knew it because teams are trying to trade up to that pick, which is usually a sign you have something special when 7 teams are like, hey, what about this? Hey, what if he gave you this? And they're like, no, we're good. We're going to take Evan Mobley.
Yeah. And like, so they had to get lucky to get up there. And then there had to be a guy there at 3. You know, 3, you go through the history, you know, there's Michael Jordan, but there's Enes Kanter. No offense to Enes Kanter, but, you know, not an all-star. So, you know, a lot of years it's good. James Harden. But they got it in a year where and, you know, it's very rare, Bill, as you know, for a rookie to make a difference in winning and losing. You know, like LeBron made a difference in winning and losing, but he still didn't make the playoffs till his 3rd year. Luka made a difference in winning and losing, but they weren't a playoff team coming out of the gate. Like to actually be able to say we're going to win games because I'm in for a 19-year-old is very unheard of. And when you watch him play, he's got a lot of room to grow. He's going to get bigger and stronger. He's going to polish his game up a little bit. You don't look at him as fully formed. So they had an incredible stroke of luck hit them. And the other thing is Garland, because Garland all of a sudden is an all-star level player, and nobody saw that coming. I promise.
And an all-star level creator too. Like somebody in the last 4 minutes of a game. I love the decisions he makes. And you think like if Philly had said, we'll take Garland and Kevin Love for Simmons in August or September, I think Cleveland probably would have done that, right? Why wouldn't they have?
They definitely were interested in that, because how are they going to get a player like Ben Simmons?
Yeah. But you think like they already had the player, they just didn't realize it. So then you talk, it's weird. I hate saying injuries are luck, but this is an old football saying about sometimes you're one injury away. And it with the Sexton Garland thing was weird the first couple weeks of the season, because it was clear Rubio and Garland should have been the backcourt that they were closing with. I don't even care about the Cavs, but I really was attached to Mobley and I was watching them, and it was just so clear that Rubio and Garland should be the backcourt. But they had the Sexton thing.
Yep.
And he was such an important guy for them, and they couldn't navigate it. They couldn't figure it out. He was so clearly better suited to be like a 6-man off the bench. And then he just gets hurt. And Garland just goes to another level.
And they didn't extend him, remember? Like, so he was up for an extension. He didn't get it. And JB Bickerstaff saw how good Rubio was out there. So he started reducing Sexton's minutes.
Yep.
And you're like, boy, how is that going to go? And they had a really tough early schedule. They had to go out west, like on a 5-game trip, like the third game of the season, which for them, it was.
I remember that. I watched that. Remember, they had momentum. And I remember I'd done a podcast about, I was there for KG. I was there for Tim Duncan. I think Mobley has a chance. I'm not going to say it's definitely happening, but I'm telling you, he has a chance to get to that level of those guys. And then they played the Lakers, and Davis was healthy at that point. And Mobley was so good defensively moving around. And that was the game in the fourth quarter. LeBron and Davis were like, let's teach the young guy a lesson. And he was having trouble keeping up to the speed, but he was in the right spots. It was just he had never seen anything like that in his life. You go from high school, college to LeBron Davis, like pick and rolls and switches and things like that. But the signs were there. Garland and Mobley, next 10 years. Is there any duo on the same team you would rather have? So your choices would be Luka and anybody.
Yeah.
Giannis and anybody. So let's say Giannis and Drew, although I don't think Drew's going to play for the next 10 years.
No.
Tatum and Brown. Then you could go, I guess, Embiid and anybody. That would probably be a poor choice. Ja and Triple J. You could have them. You could have Ayton and Bridges. Or you could have Curry and Kuminga.
Booker and Ayton.
Oh, Booker and Ayton. Or I'll give you Jokic and Murray. Where do Mobley and Garland rank for you in that group? Because for me, they're climbing the ladder.
Here's the thing. I love Ja, but I'm terrified of the way he plays.
Me too. I feel bad. I've said it on pods. I feel bad saying it, but he's reckless. He makes me nervous.
This is a conversation I have now that I'm in my early 40s that I would never have in my mid 20s, because I was like, what are you talking about? He scored 41 last night. He'll score 41 tomorrow night. I've just seen too much now.
But we saw it with Rose and Westbrook. We had the same fears in the beginning of the 2010s with those guys, with how they played. Westbrook, it never really mattered. He only got hurt once. But Rose, Rose played that way every game, and eventually it caught him.
I'm tempted to say Jokic and whoever, because I just think Jokic is a horse, literally, who could play till he's 45. Like Jokic, like if you were going to buy shares, like if player, I know that like Spencer Dinwiddie messed around with this, but if players were to sell shares in their like earnings, like I would buy shares in Luka, because Luka will make hundreds and hundreds. I mean, he's already got a supermax at age like 22.
Right.
He will make hundreds and hundreds of millions. Jokic is gonna sign a supermax this summer. He's like what, 26, 27?
Yeah, 26.
Why? Like if he wants to play, why could he not play this exact same way when he's 38? Why? He might even be better when he's 38.
I think Giannis is going to age similarly spectacularly.
But Jokic is so skilled.
No, I'm with you because it's basically it's the Larry Bird scenario that's haunted the Celtics fans for most of my life, where we had this guy who was going to age into this awesome mid-late 30s player, right? But his body didn't hold up. He had too much damage, and he really was only able to play 9 years. Jokic, you're right. He's just like that Jeep in the driveway that's like, does that thing have 280,000 miles on it? Yeah, it's fine. Want to go cross country? Yeah, there's no reason he would get hurt unless it was a fluke.
Like, and even if he,
I'm going to knock on wood. I'm knocking on wood.
Well, even if, let's say he did get hurt, let's say he like lost a year to the injury. Like, was he going to slow down?
All right. So your answer is Jokic. Jokic and Murray is a good. Jokic and Murray is a good one.
Jokic and Murray, or Jokic or whoever they get in there. Just because, I mean, I know that doesn't. It's not answering the fun question, but I'm answering it more analytically.
I guess the bigger thing for me is Garland and Mobley are in the conversation now, and the odds of that in even November, I think you'd have been like Garland. But I think it's legit. I think he's like legitimately a potential All-NBA guard.
I could say some things about Mobley that end up getting me in trouble because of how bright I think his future is. You were talking about that game in LA. He played, I want to say mid-November, he played a game at the Garden back when we thought the Knicks were still going to be good.
I watched it.
And he did like 7 things on offense. Like he pick and roll as the roll man, pick and roll as the passer, like through like a diagonal bounce pass, offensive rebound, putback pass. Like he did like 8 things on offense. I was just like, oh my God. And he's really not that involved with their offense.
He's not.
It's going to take some time for them to figure out how to use him and for him to develop his skills. And by the way, he's got a worker mindset. This is one of the things that JB Bickerstaff was telling me. You know, his dad's a coach, right? His dad, the USC smartly hired his dad to be an assistant. And they got him and his brother. His brother's at USC now, probably has a good chance to play in the NBA. The Cavs should draft him. If it increases their chances, the Cavs should draft him of keeping Mobley. But sometimes you get these coaches' kids who their dad gets a job and it's like, it's not a good situation. It's indicative of a guy who just puts whatever he wants. And sometimes you get these coaches' kids who are the gym rats, the guys who want to work on their game, who are very coachable because that's how they've been raised. And so I asked JB, not knowing nothing about Evan's dad. I haven't done no research. I just said, JB, what kind of kid is he? He goes, no. He wants to be coached. His dad knows the game. His dad, he got the job, I'm sure, because of his son. His dad is an excellent coach. He raised a kid who wants to be coachable. And they knew they were taking Mobley no matter what. Yeah. And they went and did their background on him. And every step of the way, their background, I mean, they'd already watched him play a lot. They knew they were going to have a high pick. It wasn't like they didn't know, but their background on him was like gold. And so they were like, did we just luck into a guy that we would have taken first overall? We think we did. Should we say anything about it? I don't know.
And meanwhile, and Presty's calling them going, what about number 6 and 4 first round picks? They're like, no, we're cool. We're cool. I mean, thanks, Sam.
Yeah. What would you trade? How many players would you trade Mobley for?
No, if I did the trade value again, if my fingers ever started working, he would have to be in the top 6. He'd have to. There's no scenario where he's not, because what you said about the coachability and the intellect, the closest parallel to that, and you can see it just the way his feel for the game is very Duncanish. Like when Duncan came into the league that first year, and he had been in college 4 years, but he just had it. And the way he moved and how he read things and how fun he was to play with. So he's got that, but he reminds me as a basketball player more of KG. And I said that after I watched him for 2 weeks. I was like, this guy is very KG-ish. You have to be prepared that this KG thing is happening again.
He's like a hybrid of KG because of his defense and Bosh.
That's good. Yeah, I like that.
He's got some skill. And people have compared him to Duncan, and it's such a taboo thing. Like, oh my God, how can you talk about Tim Duncan on a guy who's played 40 games? But Duncan's first year, he had Robinson, remember? And Robinson enabled Pop to really put Duncan in a position to be successful. I know it's not apples to apples, but having Allen, especially because Mobley is a little undersized in terms of bulk, they let Allen soak up a lot of the tough stuff to to be able to put Mobley in better position to succeed. It's
Well,
not an outrageous comparison.
I don't think at this point the fact that they're winning puts it on the table that we are allowed to compare him to Garnett and Duncan in real ways now. And I think with the Garnett thing, especially when Garnett was younger, those first couple of Minnesota years, he was guarding everybody. He was probably 20 pounds lighter than he ended up being like in the Boston years. And he just was so athletic. That was the thing that jumped out. It's like, Jesus Christ, he can guard guards. And that's how I feel about Mobley.